The soft hum of advanced holographic systems filled the conference room at the United Earth Defense Headquarters. The morning sun streamed through the glass walls, casting long shadows across the polished floor. World leaders from every major nation sat around the massive oval table, their faces a mix of anticipation and nervous energy. Ambassador Han Sujai stood near the head of the table, her dark suit crisp and formal. She had spent decades representing Earth in international matters, but today felt different. The air itself seemed charged with possibility. Next to her, General Park Dua maintained his military bearing, though his fingers drummed quietly on the table's surface. The room's lighting dimmed automatically as the holographic systems activated. At first, it was just a shimmer in the air, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Then the shimmer began to take shape, crystalline patterns forming and reforming, until they created a being unlike anything human eyes had ever seen. The alien delegate stood roughly 8 feet tall, its form seeming to shift between solid crystal and pure light. Its body was vaguely humanoid, with multiple limbs that moved with liquid grace. When it spoke, its voice filled the room with musical tones that somehow transformed themselves into perfect English. "People of Earth," the being said, causing several leaders to lean forward in their seats, "we come before you today as representatives of a greater community, one that spans the stars themselves." Suji felt her heart racing, but kept her expression carefully neutral. Years of diplomatic training hadn't prepared her for this moment. She noticed the Chinese premier gripping his armrests, while the U.S. president had gone completely still. The crystalline being continued, its form pulsing with soft colors as it spoke. "For centuries, we have watched your species grow. We have witnessed your triumphs and your failures, your wars and your moments of profound peace. We have seen how you face challenges, how you overcome obstacles that should, by all logical measures, be beyond your capabilities." General Park shifted slightly, and Sujay could sense his military mind already analyzing the implications. They had been watched. For centuries, every military secret, every technological advancement, every moment of human history had been observed by beings far more advanced than themselves. The Celestial Council, the being continued, is an alliance of 32 civilizations. We span 3 spiral arms of this galaxy. Some of our member species achieved space travel when your ancestors were still learning to make fire. Others joined us when they had barely mastered fusion power. The being paused, its crystalline form shimmering with what might have been amusement. "Your species is unique in many ways. You have achieved in centuries what took others millennia. Your adaptability, your creativity, your seemingly illogical approaches to problem-solving. These traits have caught our attention." Suji felt a bead of sweat roll down her back. The stakes of this moment were beyond anything in human history. She glanced at General Park, seeing her own mixture of hope and fear reflected in his eyes. Therefore, the beam's voice took on a more formal tone. "The Celestial Council extends an invitation few receive. A chance to join our alliance. This offer is not made lightly. You would be the youngest species ever considered for membership, centuries behind most of our members in technological development." The room erupted in whispers, quickly silenced as the being raised what might have been an arm. "We do not make this offer based on your current technological level, but on your potential. We see in humanity something rare and valuable, the ability to bridge gaps between different ways of thinking, to find solutions where others see only problems." Suji's mind raced with the implications. Earth, joining an alliance of advanced alien civilizations. The technological and cultural exchange alone would transform human society forever, but the responsibilities and challenges would be enormous. "We will await your representatives in one orbital cycle," the being announced. "Choose them wisely. They will undergo evaluation and testing. Their performance will determine humanity's place among the stars." A hologram began to fade, its voice growing softer. "Choose those who represent not just your capabilities, but your potential. Choose those who can show us why humanity deserves to walk among the stars." With that, The crystalline form dissolved into points of light that faded away, leaving the room in stunned silence. Sunlight once again filled the space, but it seemed somehow different now, as if the whole world had shifted on its axis. Suji turned to General Park, their eyes meeting in a moment of shared understanding. Humanity wasn't alone in the universe, and more importantly, they had been deemed worthy of consideration by beings so advanced they could barely comprehend their technology. The silence broke as voices erupted around the table. Leaders began speaking all at once, their words a mixture of excitement, fear, and disbelief. Suja remained quiet, her mind already working through the diplomatic challenges ahead. One orbital cycle, roughly one Earth year, to prepare a delegation that would represent not just a nation, but all of humanity. As the chaos of voices grew around her, Sujai looked out through the glass walls at the city beyond. Somewhere out there, ordinary people were going about their daily lives, unaware that their world had just changed forever. Soon, they would all know. Soon, everything would change. The journey to the stars was about to begin. The UES Harmony glided silently through space, its advanced engines pushing it toward the growing shape in the distance. The ship represented humanity's finest achievement in spacecraft design, built specifically for this historic mission. Yet compared to what lay ahead, it felt almost primitive. Ambassador Han Suji stood motionless at the observation deck's main viewport, her reflection ghostly against the stars. Behind her, Science Director Kim Ta-won adjusted his data tablet for the 100th time, while Cultural Attaché Lee Jin-na pressed her hand against the transparent barrier, her eyes wide with wonder. The calculations suggested it would be large, Ta-won muttered. But this... His voice trailed off as more of the station came into view. The Celestial Council's headquarters defied conventional geometry. It spiraled outward from a central point, but the spiral seemed to bend in ways that shouldn't be possible. Parts of the structure appeared to fold into themselves, creating spaces that made the human mind struggle to understand what it was seeing. "It's like nothing we could have imagined," Jin-na whispered, her breath fogging the viewport slightly. "All our science fiction, all our dreams of what we'd find out here, none of it came close to this." Suji smoothed her formal diplomatic uniform, a gesture that had become almost reflexive during their journey. "Remember," she said softly, "they invited us. Whatever we see, whatever happens, they believe we belong here." The Harmony's captain spoke through the ship's communication system. "Ambassador, we're receiving docking instructions. The translation matrix is processing them now." Suji turned to her team. 20 humans had been chosen to represent Earth: diplomats, scientists, military observers, and cultural experts. All of them had trained for months, learning everything they could about alien protocols and customs. Now they would put that training to the test. As they approached the docking area, the true scale of the station became apparent. Their ship, nearly a kilometer long, looked like a toy beside the massive structure. The docking bay alone could have held a small city, artificial gravity shifting to station standard. The captain announced. Medical teams standing by. They had practiced for this moment in simulations, but theory became reality as they felt their weight change. Some of the crew stumbled slightly, but the core diplomatic team maintained their composure. The station's gravity was about 1.3 times Earth normal, a deliberate test of their adaptability. The docking procedure went smoothly, almost too smoothly. Suja couldn't shake the feeling that they were being evaluated even in this simple act. The airlock cycled, and readings showed the station's atmosphere was safe for humans, though slightly different from Earth's mix. "Ready?" Suji asked her team. They nodded, faces showing a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The airlock door opened to reveal their first direct contact with alien life. The welcoming committee consisted of beings that varied wildly in form and size. Some were roughly humanoid, others seemed to defy biological possibility. A tall, elegant creature with flowing movements stepped forward. "Welcome, children of Earth," it said, its words translated through their advanced communication devices. I am first speaker Valen. We are pleased by your quick adaptation to our environmental conditions. Suji bowed slightly, the gesture they had decided would be their formal greeting. We are honored by your welcome, first speaker. Earth sends its gratitude for this opportunity. The delegation moved through the station's corridors, drawing curious looks from various alien species. The humans' ability to walk comfortably in the increased gravity had already caught attention. Several beings were making notes on devices that seemed to float in the air. The first real test came at the diplomatic reception. The room was filled with representatives from dozens of species, each with their own complex protocols and customs. Suji moved through the crowd with careful grace, demonstrating her memorization of the proper greetings for each species. Fascinating, she heard one being say to another. They adapt instinctively to social cues. Notice how they mirror body language even of species completely unlike their own. Jinnah was engaged in conversation with a group of beings that seemed to be made of living light, explaining Earth's concept of art. Her enthusiasm appeared to transcend the species barrier, drawing more observers to the discussion. Taiwan found himself surrounded by alien scientists, all curious about humanity's rapid technological progress. Your species made the jump from primitive flight to space travel in less than a century, one said. How did you overcome the resource limitations? The humans were being tested, Suji realized, but not in the way they had expected. The council wasn't just interested in their technological capabilities or diplomatic skills. They were watching how humans adapted, how they thought, how they approached new situations. As the reception continued, Suji noticed more and more council members gathering to observe the human delegation. Their ability to handle the physical and social challenges of this first contact was drawing significant attention. Even species that had initially seemed dismissive were now watching with interest. Perhaps, first speaker Valen said quietly to Suji, "We were right to extend the invitation when we did. Your species shows remarkable flexibility." Suji smiled diplomatically, recognizing both the compliment and the subtle evaluation behind it. This was just the beginning, she knew. The real tests were yet to come. But for now, humanity had made its first steps into a larger universe, and those steps were steady and sure. The observation deck of the station offered a view of their ship, now dwarfed by the massive structure around it. Earth wasn't visible from here, but Suji could feel the weight of her responsibility to her home world. They were no longer just representatives of nations or even of Earth. They were representatives of humanity itself, taking their first true steps into the galactic community. The journey had begun. The emergency sirens blared through the council chamber, interrupting what had been a routine evaluation of Earth's technological capabilities. The holographic displays that had been showing Earth's recent achievements in fusion power suddenly shifted to display a distant sector of space. Ambassador Han Suji and military advisor Choi Min-seok exchanged quick glances as the council members rushed to their positions. The Gardanian mining colony, a massive operation that supplied critical materials to several council species, had gone completely dark. All communications ceased 12 standard units ago, announced one of the council members, their crystalline form pulsing with urgent colors. The automated distress beacon activated shortly before all contact was lost. Min-seok leaned forward, his military training immediately evident in his posture. The holographic display showed a complex asteroid field surrounding the mining colony, with strange radiation patterns that caught his attention. "The radiation readings are unusual," noted a tall, serpentine council member. "Our sensors cannot penetrate the interference." While the council members debated possible natural causes, Suji noticed Min-seok's expression. She had worked with him long enough to recognize when he'd spotted something important. Permission to speak, Min-seok requested, following proper council protocol. When granted, he stepped forward to the central display. "These radiation patterns aren't random. They're being artificially generated to create a sensor blind spot." The council chamber fell silent. A member of the security committee spoke up. "Explain your reasoning." Human military advisor. Min Seok manipulated the display with practiced ease, despite the alien technology. This pattern matches ancient naval warfare tactics from Earth's history. When ships wanted to approach unseen, they would use natural coverage, fog banks, storm systems, or island chains to mask their approach. This is the same principle, adapted for space warfare. Sujai stepped forward to support her colleague. On Earth, we learned these tactics through centuries of naval combat. The attackers are using the asteroid belt's natural radiation, amplifying it to create the equivalent of a fog bank in space. The council members' initial skepticism began to shift as they analyzed the patterns Min Seok highlighted. Their advanced sensors confirmed his theory. The radiation was being artificially enhanced. If this is indeed an attack, one council member said, why haven't they struck yet? The colony is defenseless. Min Seok's response was immediate. They're waiting for rescue ships. Standard procedure would be to send help as soon as communications were lost. They're using the colony as bait. The council erupted in discussion. Their advanced technology had never been challenged in this way before. Their typical response protocols suddenly seemed dangerously predictable. We need to approach from multiple vectors, Min Seok suggested, drawing on centuries of Earth's military history, but not in the way they'll expect. Instead of sending our fastest ships directly, we send slower, heavily armed vessels through the longer routes, while faster ships make small, random jumps to confuse their sensors. Suji watched as the council members processed this suggestion. It was precisely the kind of unconventional thinking that humanity excelled at, taking established rules and finding creative ways to bend them. The council approved the plan. Within hours, a complex rescue operation was underway. Council ships, following Min Seok's suggested tactics, approached the mining colony from 12 different directions. The attackers, caught off guard by the unexpected strategy, were forced to reveal themselves prematurely. Just as Min Seok had predicted, they were pirates, using stolen technology to mount what should have been a perfect ambush. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by council forces approaching from angles they hadn't considered possible. Surrender, Suji broadcast to the pirate vessels, or face the consequences of attacking a council facility. Her voice carried the weight of both diplomatic authority and military threat. The pirates, realizing their carefully planned ambush had failed, surrendered without firing a shot. The mining colony was secured, its personnel shaken but unharmed. In the aftermath, Suji watched as council members reviewed the entire incident. Their advanced technology, combined with human strategic thinking, had prevented what could have been a devastating attack. More importantly, it had been resolved without casualties on either side. Your species, one of the elder council members addressed Suji and Min Seok, has surprised us yet again. We saw your military history as a mark against you, but perhaps we were wrong. You have learned lessons through conflict that we never had to face. Min Seok bowed slightly. Every challenge humanity has faced has taught us something valuable. We hope to learn from your achievements while sharing what we have learned from our struggles. Suji noticed a shift in how the council members regarded the human delegation after that day. What they had initially seen as primitive military experience was now recognized as valuable strategic insight. Humanity's history of conflict, which had concerned many council members, was being reevaluated in a new light. As they left the council chamber that day, Suji touched Min Seok's arm lightly. "Good work," she said softly. "You've shown them that humanity's past struggles have value." Min Seok nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Maybe that's why we're here," he replied. "Not just to learn from them, but to help them see things from a different perspective." The incident marked a turning point in humanity's evaluation. They had proved they could contribute meaningful insights to the Council, despite their technological limitations. Their unique history, forged in centuries of conflict and resolution, had given them knowledge that even the most advanced species could find valuable. The Council had started to see Earth's potential in a new light. In the grand learning chamber of the Celestial Council Station, Cultural attaché Li Jinnah stood before a diverse gathering of alien species. The room's crystalline walls reflected soft light as she prepared to explain yet another puzzling aspect of human society. Today's topic had emerged from the Council's confusion about Earth's multiple political systems. Your species maintains numerous different forms of government simultaneously, noted a being composed of swirling gases. This seems inefficient. Why not select the most effective system and implement it globally? Jinnah smiled, remembering similar discussions from Earth's own history. She walked to the center of the room, where a holographic display showed Earth's various nations and their governing systems. She showed them footage of human achievements that had seemed impossible: the first flight, landing on the moon, curing diseases that had plagued humanity for millennia. Each of these came from combining logic with emotion, from allowing different ideas to compete and combine. Our chaos, as you call it, is actually a form of strength. We're still learning to understand ourselves. As the session ended, Jinnah noticed a change in how the council members regarded her. Their initial patronizing curiosity had shifted to something closer to genuine interest. They were beginning to understand that humanity's apparent primitive nature might actually be sophisticated in ways they hadn't considered. One of the eldest council members approached her after the session. "Your species continues to surprise us," it said. "Perhaps we have something to learn from your chaos after all." Jinnah bowed slightly, respecting the elder being's status. "And we have much to learn from your order," she replied. "Maybe the best path forward lies in understanding both." As she left the chamber, Jinnah felt a sense of progress. The council was beginning to see that humanity's unique characteristics, their emotions, their competing systems, their apparent chaos, weren't flaws to be corrected but assets to be understood. The path to understanding between species would be long, but today had marked an important step forward. Humanity's different way of thinking, once seen as a liability, was starting to be recognized as something valuable in its own right. The universe, it seemed, might need a little human chaos after all. The message arrived unexpectedly. Ambassador Han Suji was summoned to the council's inner sanctum. As she followed the shimmering guide through corridors that seemed to bend reality, Suji noticed they were moving deeper into the station than any human had gone before. The inner sanctum itself was unlike anything she had seen. The room appeared both vast and intimate, its walls showing glimpses of distant stars and galaxies. In the center stood the eldest, a being so ancient that even other council members spoke of it with reverence. The eldest's form shifted between states of matter, sometimes solid, sometimes pure energy, its age beyond human comprehension. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Please be seated, Ambassador Han Suji of Earth," it said, gesturing to what appeared to be a chair that formed from the floor itself. "What we must discuss should not be heard while standing." Suji sat carefully, her diplomatic training helping her maintain composure despite her racing heart. The eldest moved closer, its form casting strange shadows that didn't follow normal rules of light. "Your species has caused quite a stir among the council," it began. "Some marvel at your adaptability. Others fear your unpredictability. Few understand the true reason for your invitation." Suji leaned forward slightly. "I had suspected there was more to our invitation than simple diplomatic expansion." The eldest's form rippled in what might have been appreciation of her insight. "Indeed. Tell me, Ambassador, are you familiar with the concept of prophecy?" "We have many prophecies on Earth," Suji replied carefully, "though we tend to view them as cultural stories rather than predictions." "Ah, but what if I told you that across thousands of species, separated by vast distances of space and time, similar prophecies appeared? What if these prophecies, written in civilizations that never contacted each other, all spoke of the same future?" The eldest waved one of its limbs, and the room filled with holographic text in countless alien languages. "These are the convergence prophecies. They appear in the ancient texts of every council species, and many others who have long since vanished from the galaxy." Suji watched as translations appeared beside each text. Though the languages and contexts varied dramatically, she began to see patterns in their meaning. They speak of a young species, the eldest continued, one that would emerge late in the galaxy's history, a species that would bridge impossible gaps between emotion and logic, between chaos and order, between the old ways and the new. Suji felt a chill run down her spine as the implications became clear. You believe these prophecies refer to humanity. We know they do, the eldest replied. Your species matches every marker described in the texts. You advance faster than any species we've encountered. You combine emotional insight with logical analysis in ways we've never seen. You adapt to new situations with remarkable speed, yet maintain your core identity. The eldest moved closer, its form now resembling a cascade of starlight. But most importantly, you bridge gaps. Your delegation has already demonstrated this. You understand both the logical and emotional approaches to problems. You can communicate with species that have nothing in common with your own form. You find connections where others see only differences. Suji's mind raced with the implications. The council invitation was not mere chance, the eldest confirmed. We have watched your species for centuries, comparing your development to the prophecies. When we saw how quickly you advanced from primitive technology to spaceflight, we knew it was time. The room's walls seemed to pulse with energy as the eldest continued. The galaxy faces challenges that pure logic cannot solve. Many of our member species have become set in their ways, unable to adapt to new threats. We need a species that can bridge the gaps between different ways of thinking, different approaches to problems. And you believe humanity can be this bridge? Suji asked, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. We know you can. We've already seen it happening. Your military advisor's creative solution to the pirate attack, your cultural attache's explanation of emotional decision-making, your scientist's ability to combine intuition with analysis. These are exactly what the prophecies described. The eldest's form shifted again, now resembling a constellation of interconnected points of light. But there is more. The prophecies speak of a time of great change in the galaxy, when old ways of thinking will no longer be sufficient. We believe that time is approaching. Suji sat in silence for a moment, processing the weight of this revelation. Why tell me this now? Because your species needs to understand its potential role. You are not here merely to learn from us. You are here to help us learn new ways of thinking, to help us adapt and grow. The galaxy needs humanity's unique perspective. The eldest moved back slightly, its form becoming more solid. But this knowledge comes with responsibility. Your species must continue to grow, to learn, to adapt. You must maintain your ability to bridge differences while advancing your understanding of the galaxy. Suji stood slowly, her diplomatic training helping her find the right words. We will need guidance. We are still young compared to the council species. You will have it, the eldest assured her. But remember, it is not despite your youth that you were chosen, but because of it. Your species still has the flexibility, the creativity, the ability to see new possibilities that some of us have lost over millennia of existence. As Suji prepared to leave the inner sanctum, the eldest had one final message. The prophecies are not a guarantee, Ambassador. They are a possibility. One that depends on the choices your species makes. Choose wisely. Walking back through the station's corridors, Suji felt the weight of this revelation. Humanity's invitation to the council hadn't been mere chance or diplomatic expansion. They had been chosen for a role they never imagined, to help bridge the gaps between civilizations, to help unite a galaxy that was far more divided than it appeared on the surface. The future, it seemed, would depend not just on humanity's ability to learn from other species, but on their ability to help those species learn from each other. It was a responsibility both terrifying and exciting, much like humanity itself. The Grand Council chamber pulsed with energy as thousands of beings gathered for the final vote. Representatives from all 32 member civilizations filled the vast space, their forms ranging from crystalline structures to pure energy to biological entities, unlike anything found on Earth. At the center of it all stood Ambassador Han Suji, her formal diplomatic uniform stark against the swirling colors of the assembled species. The opposition speakers had just finished their arguments. Their concerns echoed through the chamber. Humanity was too young, too unpredictable, too prone to emotional decisions. A being of pure light had presented a particularly passionate case about Earth's history of conflict. Look at their past, the light being had argued, its form flickering with intensity. They fight among themselves over resources, beliefs, even abstract concepts. How can we trust such an unstable species with council membership? Others had pointed to humanity's rapid technological advancement as a concern. They moved from primitive flight to space travel in less than a century, a crystalline elder had noted. Such rapid change suggests dangerous instability. Now it was Suji's turn to speak. She stood in the center of the chamber, where the acoustics would carry her voice to every corner. The translation matrices hummed softly, ready to convert her words into forms all species could understand. Honored members of the council, she began, her voice steady, despite the weight of the moment. I have listened to your concerns about humanity. You speak of our conflicts, our rapid change, our emotional nature. You see these as weaknesses. Perhaps they are, but they are also our greatest strengths. She gestured to the historical display floating above the chamber, showing Earth's development. Yes, we fight. Yes, we make mistakes. Yes, we sometimes let emotions cloud our judgment. But look what comes from these supposed flaws. The display shifted to show human achievements, medical breakthroughs, technological innovations, artistic creations. We don't offer perfection, Suji declared, her voice growing stronger. We offer growth, change, and the wisdom that comes from embracing both. A murmur ran through the assembled species. Suji continued, addressing their concerns directly. You fear our capacity for conflict. Consider how it has taught us to value peace. You worry about our rapid advancement. Think about how it shows our ability to adapt and learn. She walked slowly around the central platform, making eye contact with various council members. Every species here achieved greatness through stability and careful progress. Humanity took a different path. We learned through trial and error, through failure and success, through chaos and order. The display changed again, showing scenes of human cooperation, international space missions, global scientific projects, cultural exchanges. We don't just learn from success, Suji explained. We learn from failure. Every mistake teaches us something new. Every setback makes us stronger. A member of the Council's Security Committee spoke up. But this unpredictability, how can we trust it? Suji smiled gently. Unpredictability gave us art, music, poetry. It helped us solve problems that pure logic couldn't crack. It lets us see possibilities that more structured thinking might miss. She paused, letting her words sink in. The galaxy is changing. New challenges arise that old solutions cannot address. Perhaps what the Council needs isn't another perfectly stable species, but one that knows how to adapt, how to change, how to find new ways forward. The chamber fell silent as Suji reached the climax of her address. We stand before you not as perfect beings, but as seekers of knowledge. We offer not centuries of stability, but millennia of learning from our mistakes. We bring not unchanging wisdom, but the constant drive to grow and improve. She looked around the chamber one final time. Judge us not by where we are, but by how far we've come, and how willing we are to keep learning. The question isn't whether humanity is perfect enough for the Council. The question is whether the Council is ready for a species that embraces imperfection as a path to growth. The voting process began immediately after her speech. Each member species had one vote, with a 3/4 majority needed for acceptance. The chamber hummed with energy as decisions were registered. Suji stood quietly, maintaining her diplomatic composure as the votes appeared in the central display. Species after species registered their decision, the tally growing slowly. The final vote was close, closer than any membership decision in Council history. But when the results appeared in glowing symbols above the chamber, the majority had voted in favor of Earth's membership. Ambassador Han Suji, the Council President, announced, its form shimmering with formal authority. The Celestial Council accepts Earth's petition for membership, with conditions to be specified in the formal agreement. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of responses, some species expressing joy through light displays, others through harmonic frequencies, still others through more subtle means. As Suji bowed in acceptance, she caught a glimpse of the eldest in a far corner of the chamber. The ancient being's form rippled in what might have been approval. The prophecies had spoken of humanity's role as a bridge between different ways of thinking. Today, they had taken their first step toward fulfilling that role. The journey ahead would not be easy. But then again, humanity had never chosen the easy path. They had always preferred the path that led to growth, to change, to new possibilities. That, after all, was their greatest strength. The acceptance chamber of the Celestial Council glowed with soft light as Ambassador Han Sujai read through the membership conditions. The document, displayed in both Earth Standard and Council scripts, outlined terms unlike any in the Council's history. Science Director Kim Ta-won stood beside her, his eyes widening as he processed the implications of what they were reading. The Council had created an entirely new category of membership for Earth, one that acknowledged both their technological limitations and their unique abilities. Humanity will serve as intermediaries, Sujai read aloud, facilitating communication and understanding between civilizations of varying technological advancement. The words seemed to hover in the air, their weight almost physical. The Council's decision went far beyond simple membership. Earth would have a special role, helping bridge the vast gaps between different civilizations. They would work with both Council members and non-member species, using their adaptability and unique perspective to foster understanding. This isn't just humanity's next step, Ta-won remarked quietly, his voice filled with wonder. We're helping the galaxy take its first step toward true unity. Suji nodded, understanding the magnitude of what lay before them. The document outlined specific responsibilities. Earth would help evaluate emerging civilizations, assist with diplomatic missions to non-member species, and provide insight into different approaches to problem-solving. The terms also included protection for Earth during this transition period. Advanced Council species would share technology gradually, helping humanity develop without losing the unique characteristics that made them valuable as intermediaries. Cultural Attaché Lee Jinan approached with another set of documents. The education exchange programs are ready, she reported. We'll be receiving teachers from 12 different Council species, while Earth universities prepare to welcome students from across the galaxy. The delegation members gathered around as Suja prepared to sign the final documents. Each of them understood that this moment would change Earth forever. Their world would become a crossroads of galactic civilization, a meeting point between the old and the new. Military advisor Choi Min-seok reviewed the security protocols. They've thought of everything, he noted. The protection agreements are comprehensive, but flexible enough to allow us to maintain our independence. Suji picked up the ceremonial signing implement, a device that would record her acceptance not just in writing, but in ways meaningful to all Council species. As she prepared to sign, the eldest appeared once more. Remember, the ancient being said, its form shifting between states, this is not an ending, but a beginning. Your species has much to learn, but also much to teach. Sujai signed the documents with steady hands. The implement flashed with multiple forms of energy, recording the moment in ways that would be legally binding across all Council species. Earth is now officially a provisional member of the Celestial Council, announced the Council President. Let the record show that this marks the beginning of a new era in galactic cooperation. The journey back to Earth felt different than their arrival had. The UEA's harmony carried not just a delegation, but the architects of a new galactic order. Each member of the team spent the voyage preparing for what lay ahead. "We'll need to establish training programs," Taiwan said during one planning session, "not just for diplomats, but for people from all walks of life. Every human who interacts with other species will be part of this bridge we're building." Jinnah worked on cultural integration plans. "We need to prepare Earth for visitors from thousands of different species. Every city will need facilities to accommodate beings with different environmental needs." The changes would not be easy. Earth would face challenges unlike any in human history. But as Sujai looked out at the stars rushing past the ship's viewport, she felt a sense of rightness about it all. "We've always been explorers," she said to her team. "Now we're exploring not just space, but new ways of bringing people together, new ways of understanding each other." As the harmony approached Earth, the team could see their home planet in a new light. It wasn't just their world anymore. It was about to become a crucial point of connection in a vast galactic network. "Look," Min Seok said, pointing to the night side of Earth. "You can already see the changes. New lights glowed in previously dark areas. Construction sites for alien embassies, research centers, and cultural exchange facilities." The delegation's arrival on Earth was met with both celebration and anticipation. World leaders gathered to hear the terms of membership and begin planning for the changes ahead. "Our world will never be the same," Sujai told the assembled leaders. "But change has always been humanity's strength. We've been chosen not despite our differences, but because of them." As the sun set on their first day back on Earth, Sujai stood at her office window, looking out at the city below. Soon, these streets would see beings from across the galaxy. Humans would learn to bridge not just cultural gaps, but gaps between different forms of life, different ways of thinking, different approaches to existence itself. The journey ahead would be challenging, but humanity had never shied away from challenges. They had been chosen to help unite the galaxy, and they would face this task as they had faced every other, with determination, creativity, and the unwavering belief that understanding was possible, no matter how vast the differences might seem. Their journey had only begun, but it was already changing the galaxy, one small step at a time. The stars seemed brighter that night, as if they too understood that a new chapter in galactic history had begun.